Hello everyone, my name is Francesco Cipollone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Phoenix Security. Today I'm super excited to announce a feature that we've been working since the inception of Phoenix. It's remediation. Instead of looking at 300 vulnerability or a million vulnerability, engineers right now don't have the time to look at those. They have the time to actually look at what is the single remedies that they can deploy from a code perspective, from a patching perspective, from a container remediation perspective, and even if that container need to be remediated or not. In a world where code clouds and attacker are getting faster than ever, you can't throw just this vulnerability to an AI agent. And I'm going to touch on that. But one of the most controversial and challenging elements in remediation is looking at code, cloud dependency, images, runtime, and what is actually reachable. And that's what we did with Phoenix. We connected all of the dots from your build file to your dependency, to your image, base image, suggesting remediation on container, patches, cloud, web, code, bringing all of these together to correlate all of this remediation and give engineers a single remedy. And you can throw this in a single cloud code. It's going to cost you a lot. But the main challenge is those vulnerabilities will not be correlated. You will not know if a particular library is reachable and is externally reachable and is correlated. And even if that container needs to be fixed in that container or in the build file. And that's the difference between guessing and having a surgical AI agent that analyze this container vulnerability, correlate them with lineage to the build file, and tells you which engineers is actually fixing that. And we run an experiment on throwing just tons of repositories and tons of containers on an LLM, and you can see there how much they cost versus throwing them with the right context. Moreover, the interesting part is that in this experiment, a lot of this library got upgraded to latest. There wasn't knowledge about which was the minimum version that needed to be resolved. And that's what we bring with Phoenix. We bring the knowledge of the minimum version that needs to be updated and what library needs to be updated where, by looking at graph of remediation, correlating which library is actually more important to fix and which container actually need to be fixed or not because it's not running, with a new concept called lineage and throttling. By disabling inactive container, we actually can remove tons of vulnerability, up to 1/10 of vulnerability, or 90% of those vulnerability can disappear. But we don't want to stop there. We want to look at which single images is generating the majority of vulnerability, or which build file needs to be solved to fix a lot of images because the issue is coming from that library. And that's what we have with remediation. So without further ado, let's look at remediation in action. So when you come into Phoenix, you can see immediately the 10x reduction from all of the library that get received versus the container that gets disabled and throttled versus the contextual deduplication that are the library that we disable in container because you can't touch that. And with that, looking at which software is running, which container is running, and looking at that particular lineage of what is the single image that is running in this registry and is the issue that needs to be fixed in the base image or in the build file. And if it's in the build file, can I generate an automatic code fix that can be deployed with our AI agent and deliver a single remediation quickly with the minimal path to remediation. But I want to look at all of the vulnerability that I have for a particular team, the ones that are actually reachable for a particular vulnerability and for a particular library. I want to see, is this particular library reachable at runtime and to which degree, and hence is the risk level of this library augmented or not. And I don't want to stop there. I want to look at, from a container perspective, from a library perspective, what is the single library that delivers me the biggest path to remediation or the biggest resolution? I want to generate a remediation campaign that tells all of the engineers focus on this particular remediation or I want to push that particular library directly into code with our remediation agent and forget about remediating this vulnerability altogether, but looking at also which are the breaking changes and the challenging changes, so that you can feed all of this information either to the engineers or to a remediation agent without spending millions and burning tokens and tokens. But this actually enable you to have surgical fixes for your engineers and with logical and context without destroying your budget. And with this, we actually managed to reduce up to 70% SCA vulnerability from a container perspective and help to reduce massively the overload of engineers to look at which base image is running from which image and which build file is coming from where, or is even running this image or not, and to which degree is that one running. With Phoenix Security, we bring the new remediation across library, container, cloud, code, providing you the best path to remediation, going from tons of vulnerabilities to a single-digit remedies for each engineering team, so that they can answer the question, you want me to fix critical, or do you want me to remediate the best path to remediation? With Phoenix Security, we're here finally, provide remediation in the hand of engineers. This is Francesco Cipollone and Phoenix Security on remediation. Stay safe out there. Goodbye.